Bethesda just dropped their free June update for Starfield, which added a new feature that I've been hoping for since the game's launch. They also added some powerful new gear, including a new heavy laser weapon, a new skin for the cutter, and a heavy armor spacesuit with an interesting look and some powerful stats. Not to mention that modders interested in Starfield now have full access to Starfield creations, and we can download both free and paid mods for ourselves. Bethesda has even uploaded their own official set of free and paid mods, which are available through the Starfield creations menu, like this impressive new Starborn suit, which is also free by the way. But here you can see that new laser weapon and spacesuit in action. So one of those new weapons you'll be able to receive in this new June update is the Arcmite Plasma Cutter, a heavy weapon and a laser weapon combined, so you can double dip into both sets of perk point bonuses, plus some pretty insane potential for weapon mod, which we'll look at a little bit later, but with the right build, this thing completely shreds enemies. We also got another new cutter, as I mentioned, called the Shipbreaker's Cutter, with a new skin to add some more basic customization to your resource farming experience. And finally, we have the Extreme Temperature Entry Spacesuit, which has a unique look and some pretty decent stats overall as well. But how exactly you can get this new gear leads me back to that missing feature I mentioned earlier. That's because with the Starfield June update, they've overhauled the bounty hunting system to make my bounty hunter playthrough even more enjoyable, and they've done this in several ways. First of all, there is now a fully fleshed out Trackers Alliance faction, complete with a new home base in Aquila City, which is actually really nice. Here the Trackers Alliance now has their own vendor, where you can get some additional gear, a new currency which you can earn from missions, or just loot out in the world, and even a more advanced mission board you can interact with to eliminate more high value and dangerous targets. Exactly what I wanted for my bounty hunter build. Now there's a lot more to this which we'll get into in a minute, like how you can now find random bounties just wandering the streets of major cities. But to get started, first you'll need to talk to this Trackers Alliance agent, a brand new NPC that was just added to the game. Now she does appear in most major cities like New Atlantis and even Red Mile, so you're bound to run into her somewhere pretty quickly as soon as you load into your last save. Talking to this mysterious tracker will begin the Trackers Alliance mission, sending you to Aquila City as I previously mentioned, and to find the Tracker Alliance HQ, just head to the middle of the city and look for their icon, which is now visible on your city map, by the way, thanks to the previous map's update in Starfield. And once inside their base, you'll find the leader of the Trackers Alliance called Number 1 or No One, and one of their most experienced trackers named Roach, having a pretty heated conversation. Speaking to them, you can get a bit more background on how the Trackers Alliance works and how you yourself can become a tracker. In other words, a bounty hunter. In particular, I was curious about how tracking bounties through the Alliance was going to be different from the mission boards, and there is a basic explanation for that as well.
The mission boards are merely a tool we use to expand our reach to freelancers.
So accepting your first bounty lets you interact with this new bounty board, which looks great, and you'll also get some additional dialogue from Roach. Turns out he needs to go along with you since you are new, and this is really a training mission of sorts. Roach is actually a pretty well done companion in terms of his personality, his dialogue options, even his combat skills, which you'll get to see more of a bit later. I was pleasantly surprised by the dialogue and the characters in this new quest line, and this is definitely going to be a lot more than just a basic fetch quest, and certainly more than the basic bounties you might be used to from the previous Trackers Alliance board missions. This is definitely an upgrade and a fully fleshed out quest that took me well over an hour to complete, and I really enjoyed it all the way through. So progressing the new Trackers Alliance questline will lead you to that new bounty hunting feature, which involves adapting your scanner to locate bounty targets while you're walking through major cities like Aquila. Now in implementation, I think this actually does work pretty good. NPCs who have active bounties with the Trackers Alliance will be highlighted in red, so they're impossible to miss. And once you approach them, you can either attempt a speech check to bring them in peacefully, or just take them out by force if you prefer. But eventually you should run into your main target here named Adrastos, and you'll be able to refine your bounty hunting skills with a little bit more interrogation, leading you to your next destination, an old abandoned shipyard in the Andromas system. Now there's just one problem: your ship and Roach's ship don't fit the usual description of the typical junkers they chop up here for parts. So to covertly gain access to the Star Yard where your main bounty is expected, you'll need to pilot this hunk of junk instead. And luckily, the system is nearby and I didn't have to face any real opposition on my way until I entered the Star Yard itself and was immediately detected. So by the way, I highly recommend using some of Starfield's new difficulty settings if you're an experienced player in order to make this whole questline feel a bit more high level and dangerous. I personally cranked my difficulty all the way up to the new extreme variety, which makes me take much more damage from NPC attacks and also makes my own attacks do less damage. This combined with the anti-gravity combat you'll face here actually does add to the tension you experience with this new mission, which is a nice bonus. Anyway, I won't spoil the rest of the quest line, so you can go out and experience it yourself, while also picking up some new weapons and the spacesuit that we mentioned earlier, and of course also becoming a full-fledged member of the Trackers Alliance. Once you do so, make sure to check out the entire Tracker HQ back in Aquila City, including the downstairs bar area where you can chat with some real experienced bounty hunters and hear their story. You can decide on your own call sign, which is a nice choice. I went with Wraith. There are a bunch of other options though. Plus you can interact with that new tracker merchant that I mentioned. You should have gotten some new currency called Astra during this mission, and you can actually turn that in for some random gear pieces. But speaking of gear, don't forget to upgrade whatever you earn from this quest using a weapon bench or spacesuit bench. The Arc Plasma Cutter that I got from this mission is absolutely insane once you fully upgrade it. And crafting got even more updates in this June patch for Starfield, like the ability for players to now craft their own ammo, which also definitely helps with that self-sufficient bounty hunter playstyle that I'm going for. Plus you can now upgrade melee weapons as well. Melee weapons also now benefit from the tier system where you'll see increasing damage stats based on weapon tiers like we do for other weapon types. And like I said, being able to craft melee weapon mods on top of that, everything from added corrosion damage to bonus sneak attack damage just adds to the overall playstyle and the possibilities for melee builds, which is a good thing. And finally, don't forget to interact with the new tracker mission board for some even more challenging elite bounties, which come with better rewards like more credits and better loot drops. This new mission board system is also located in the Tracker HQ basement. But there's even more to the new Trackers Alliance faction if you're willing to pay out for one of Bethesda's new creation mods. Now, I'm currently testing this one myself, and we'll have more to say about this in another video. But like I said, I think this new addition to Starfield is really great. It does flesh out a lot of what it would be like to play a bounty hunter, though there are still a few missing pieces in my opinion. For one thing, when you do get your bounty or you track down that NPC, you kind of just leave them there. And this is actually the case with the paid Trackers Alliance mod. And it just ends up feeling a little bit anticlimactic at the end of everything. After you spend so long tracking down this NPC, you've had maybe this interesting battle at the end of things, and then they just kind of lay there on the ground. I think it would be interesting if you could then capture that NPC or somehow bring them back to your ship. Maybe you would have to add a new module to your ship to be able to hold on to that prisoner and then bring them yourself all the way back to the Trackers Alliance. And this actually makes sense because when you explore the Trackers Alliance HQ a little bit more thoroughly, there actually are jail cells contained in that building. So maybe they are planning to add something like that, like a Trackers Alliance 2.0 release, or I'm sure maybe something like that could be added by modders in the future. But that really would help flesh out the whole experience from start to finish of being a bounty hunter. But let me know what you think about this latest Starfield update down in the comments section below. Are you excited to play as a bounty hunter with the additional faction and tracking quests, plus the new scanner system, or is there something else you're still waiting on before you return to Starfield? Thanks again for watching, and I will see you around in the next video.